year we will rage. Play their game, play their game. Over the next year, life will change. All right, what is going on, guys? Putin's top ally, Dmitry Medvedev, warns of World War III if UK troops are sent to Ukraine and says they would be destroyed. So, obviously, over the last week or so, there have been a lot of big words said by not only Medvedev, but our side. And then, of course, everybody is distracted by government shutdowns and all sorts of other events. But this is pretty interesting. It says that Putin's closest ally has threatened to unleash World War III on the West if UK sends troops to the Ukrainian soil. It says former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said on Sunday that any Brit soldiers training soldiers inside of UKR would be legitimate targets for Russian forces and ruthlessly destroyed. So if you think about it on the point of they are in a war with UKR, if they strike a target and there happens to be UKR troops, those are kind of the grounds of war. UKR is in, as far as UK troops in Ukraine, you would think that that would be fair game. But if it happens, of course, that means that they are essentially attacking and hitting UK troops, a NATO member. So not too many people take this stuff seriously, but at the same time, look at where we're at. If you rewind and look at all of the changes incrementally that have happened during this conflict, obviously, things are picking up. It says the Kremlin's mouthpiece furious claims were made after British Defense Secretary Grant Shapps said that he was considering deploying UK troops to train soldiers inside of Ukraine. Medvedev is seen as Vlad's yes man and often makes blood-curdling threats aimed at NATO states. Now, I've also heard, just like we all think that, former presidents here have the ear of the current president. I've even heard the reverse, that Medvedev is actually the guy telling Vlad what to do. I don't know how that, if that's anywhere close to true, but again, I think that that's pretty interesting that that's being said. Now the lapdog's latest chilling warning is that the West's action are bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war. Now, this is something that people cannot fathom. In fact, it's been talked about so much that people just do not think that this is even possible. I personally don't think it would be a nuclear war, but that's what's being talked about right now, and a whole lot. I think it would be a conventional World War III, and I think that we're already in it. In fact, every single day there is something there that proves to me that we are already in World War III. Tell me what you think tonight in the chat and in the comments down below. We're going to cover a whole lot in a short amount of time. Stick around. We're going to talk about all of the current events today and much more right when we get back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Play their game, play their game. Over the next year, life will change. Play their game, play their game. Over the next year, we will rage. All right, lapdog or not, folks talk about how Medvedev is still in a current position of power, and the guy is definitely not afraid to say what's on his mind, or whoever is running his puppet strings mind, that is. So we're going to go over a lot. Before we get started, remember you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. On top of that, you can find a full source list of all of the extra info. In fact, there is a web content /overflow. That is all the stuff that we could not fit into the show, /tweets that might be a little bit more adult. So that's all going to be down there in the overflow web content. So make sure to go check that out. We'll talk about that at the very end. Let's bring in my co-host /internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So one more thing is that make sure to go over and check out all of our mods over on the Friends page. And not only can you find every one of our great mods there, you can also find a whole list of creators. If you haven't discovered yet, make sure to go check them out. There's greats over there like Jacob Israel, Justin True, and of course the official Ann Lynn show, Off-Grid Desert Farming with Paul and Adrian, of course the Real BP Earthwatch, Secure Team, and much more. So make sure to go over and check that out, plus a whole list of everything else where you can find us. All right, Dex, back to this first one, and I actually forgot I have like a error thing going on. This is a live show, so anything could happen. Got some loud noise in the background, which you guys, every time I've ever seen a YouTuber say like, "Oh, sorry for all the stuff in the background," I'm like, you can't hear it, especially when it's like, "Oh, I'll wait for the sirens to go by," and in the video you can't hear them. But I do have some stuff going on in the background. I'll go turn that off. Dex, do you want to talk about your opinions about Medvedev saying World War III? People don't really take it serious.
Well, yeah, I'll give a little analogy here. So Medvedev does hold a position. It's the he is the head of the Security Council, SB. I think they refer to it using the initials of that name in Russian. But the equivalent to that in the U.S. would be Jake Sullivan, and that is the head of United States National Security Advisor to our current president. So if you think about that kind of position, like that's a pretty significant position when you think about probably the person who's talking to the head of the state, in our case, our president, about security, national security, and anything related to that. That's equivalent to what he has. So he's basically got the ear of Putin. He's also been elected president. He's been prime minister before. He's done both, but now he fills this role that we would think of as like Jake Sullivan's role, which is this security advisor. So he is the head of that team. That team includes Putin, but it also includes others, and their job is to help the president with, or help Putin with the role of understanding security and what they should be doing across, in larger events. So that's why he's such a mouthpiece, and that's also why he's oftentimes throwing out these big statements like that. But at the end of the day, he does have a position, and it is of significance, at least in the sense that if they didn't want him to say those things, they would immediately muzzle him or remove him from that position. He wouldn't be there. So this is as much, when you hear from him, I think you could almost say you're hearing from Putin himself without it having to be attributed to Putin. It's another way that they can put out remarks. So again, he is on the far end. So we definitely take him with more of a grain of salt because he's always barking like that. But at the same time, this is a pretty big deal. Putting troops inside UKR would be a significant step. We've seen there were some mentions about it, and there's definitely some at embassies because they have to protect the individual embassies, but technically that's on embassy land, which isn't necessarily considered to be inside the country. An embassy is sovereign. So if this happens, it would be a big change. We haven't formally said U.S. troops were on that soil either, outside of the embassy.
And as many people believe that they are already there, and we've known that there's U.S. troops there, and I just assume that we have U.S. troops there. I mean, I know there's U.S. troops there, in my opinion, because they have had multiple incidences where you had U.S. special forces that have perished. You even had the one case where the guy was a special forces guy who apparently left from being a Navy SEAL, went AWOL, which is technically super looked down upon, to go volunteer to fight for UKR. And then he perished in that conflict. And they said, oh, yeah, no, he was a Navy SEAL, but he went AWOL to go fight this other conflict. It didn't make too much sense. Most of us thought that he was probably there by orders, but they couldn't say that. And they probably pushed it right under the rug. But, they probably have done a bunch of things over the last year to stop and avert a World War III. It makes you question, do they really want World War III, or do they not want it yet? Or is there a schedule for it? Looks like there is when you see all of the incremental kind of escalations. This isn't going to go back to normal. Even if you're an optimist about this, it's like, how do you think that all of this is going to go back to what it was before? It can't. All of the things that have happened in Europe, and I think it's more often the American side of it thinks that this could go back to, that this is going to be nothing, right? In Europe, they can actually feel all of the differences happening. They can see the bills crazy going up. Our bills are going up, and they say it's because of this. But really, over in Europe, they're getting hit super hard by everything. And then we have Oxfordshire explosion live. A massive fireball lights up night sky as loud bang heard. Now, when you look at some of the images, it actually looks like a mushroom cloud. Now, there have been several theories about this, that this wasn't what they said it was. I don't particularly know, but obviously the timing of it is why some people were questioning it. They said that it was, of course, a huge explosion that rocked an area of the UK, with video showing it lighting up the skies this evening, moments after a thunderstorm passed overhead. It says the mystery bang was reported on social media earlier this evening by terrified members of the public. Many reported hearing a loud bang, while concerning video showed flames lighting up the night sky and billowing into the night. Others reported that they experienced a momentary loss of power shortly after the explosion. So it was most likely power related, right? Well, it says the person who captured the footage can be overheard saying, "That's massive." He later posted on X, formerly known as Twitter. I hate that they still have to do that. I don't know, but it was massive. There were lots of fire brigade police cars minutes later going through A40. Another person added, "Did anyone just see the skies over Oxford a minute ago? Don't think I've ever seen orange lightning before." So, and of course, some are saying that it was some sort of electrical kind of transformer that blew up because of lightning. And then, of course, Severn Trent Green Power confirmed lightning struck a tank this evening. A spokesman for the company said Severn Trent Green Power can confirm that around 19:20 this evening, a digester tank at Cassington AD facility near Yarnton, Oxfordshire, was struck by lightning, result in the biogas within the tank igniting. Biogas. I just really said biogas. So if the biogas exploded, convenient timing. The reason why people are looking at this is because this explosion happened right as everybody is talking. Medvedev is talking about the UK sending troops. Some question if there is something up above that could do this on command, like kind of a shot over the bow or a message. I don't believe either, because I don't know what the fact is there. As far as you always find out a couple days later if there's actual footage of a tank blowing up, all of that going up on Twitter. It would be stupid if you first day went out and said, "Oh, this was a space weapon or something," and the same way it goes with if you just automatically assume it's a gas container. At the same time that UK is being kind of brought into all of this dirt. Do you think that Russia has the capability to strike things from space? Well, you can believe whatever you want. Our own Pentagon and our Space Force said they do, and they also said that China does. They also said that they're working on their own. Many people believe that we've had space weapons for 30 plus years. Was this an instance where they were like, "Hey, we can hit anywhere. We can hit a small target. We can hit a gas tank if we want to"? Or was it just general lightning? Either way, the pictures and the video from it are pretty alarming, but at the same time, it's mainly you can see smoke, and maybe the clouds from the thunderstorm probably made that light and the combination of the camera look a whole lot worse than it was. Dex, when you saw the pictures, I mean, it looks like a mushroom cloud, but you can obviously see the clouds. The thunderstorm is right above.
Exactly. And when you look at that image, that that light that's up that sort of gives the mushroom effect is really the cloud layer, and it's just a reflection from this bright, explosion that's on the ground. So it's really the fireball that's down on the ground. So and it wasn't unmet with lots of people going, oh, it looks like a gas pipeline, because that's kind of what it would look like. Similar to that here in the U.S. If we saw something like that, it would be similar to like a gas pipeline lighting up, which would just be huge. It'd be a massively big fireball. So, but then of course everybody else it's very ominous. I mean, that picture is ominous. It's just after dark. They just had a storm roll through. There's low cloud cover. So when you look out, across the land and you hear that big boom and you're seeing that going off, you could imagine that would be very shocking to just about anybody in here if that was outside your window and you're like, what in the world is that? So
Yeah, I mean, like every movie we've seen, if there's a nuke that goes off in the distance, that's what it would look like, right? I mean, it would probably be more detailed, but think if you're in that moment, that you hear a huge explosion, probably feel it, and then look out the window at that. That's pretty crazy. One thing I thought was crazy is how high the actual flames look to be. So usually fires, even big ones, unless you catch the moment it blows up, a lot of the times the flames aren't that high. It's the major, it's the initial explosion. What I thought is interesting, if you zoomed out, this almost looks like if you took a magnifying glass and you burnt a leaf or something, that kind of flame that hits when you get the magnifying glass just right and it first lights on fire. That's what I thought was kind of a little thing that made me go, But again, there is a logical explanation, but there's also a logical explanation for everything that is pushed under the rug and said to be something else. Like, when we had nationwide groundings, they said, oh, it's just a technical glitch. When the New York Stock Exchange went down, they were like, oh, it was somebody put a zero in, when false missile alerts went out to all of Hawaii, they were like, oh, we pushed the wrong smart button, but there was no button and they were all drop-down menus and they all had warnings. So there's always some logical explanation for things, but sometimes those logical explanations are made by stupid people in the heat of the moment to try to get you off the subject. U.S. senators to seek a Xi meeting, discuss Macron on China visit. Dex, do you want to go over Xi and Macron?
Well, it appears that we've got a couple of senators that are going to be trying to get a meeting specifically around micron technology, and they want the meeting with Xi and its ability to do business in the country, where the company faces ongoing probes from the Cybersecurity Administration. So I think they also plan to meet with the U.S. businesses community in Shanghai, other groups, to discuss concerns about the investment climate. As we know, a lot of people have sort of backed out because they're worried about their own companies because they've been scrutinized to the point where they would come in, they being China, would come in and just raid the company, basically take everybody, detain them, grab all of the equipment, grab all the data and files, and say they're going to investigate it. And they were doing that. And that was, we've seen that with numerous companies that were based outside of China, but had relations or had offices in China. And specifically some U.S. companies. So I think those are the two big concerns that the senators are trying to solve. I don't know if they're going to actually get it, but I believe it was Chuck Schumer and Mike Crapo, I believe, was the other one. I believe are the names that are trying to arrange this meeting next week. So this falls on the line of all of these talks that they've been trying to have, opening up lines of communication, defusing some of the escalation around Taiwan, or in this case, dealing with some of the issues around technology and the fact that we've sanctioned them. They've held back on sending certain technology out of their country to us all over. You could call it a tech war if you want, but at the end of the day, we're in some sense of conflict with them, even though we haven't done anything kinetic yet.
No, and I actually, we're trying to get a gentleman on our show. Really, really great talk, and it's surprising that some of the most incredible things I heard were from one gentleman, and the only place that seems to be interviewing him was Coast to Coast with George Norrie. I could not. Did you guys listen to George Norrie last night? I just happened to listen to the Coast to Coast last night, and he had a great guest on. His name is like Benjamin. What was it? Do you remember, Dex? Burkush. But man, that guy hit everything on the nail. I see.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Baruch, I guess, or Baruch. Baruch.
Yeah, and he told, I don't think they want that exact message that he was talking about with China and possibly having guys coming to the United States. They don't want that on mainstream. They're too afraid of offending somebody. Now, I see a lot of people very confused about the alert. People are saying, oh, even if you put your phone, if you turn your phone off and put it in a bag, you'll still get the text. If you turn it off, I believe you will still get that text, but it depends on if it does receive it, because the chips can be triggered on and off. We actually showed you that the other day. The NSA even said they can turn a phone that's off on. They can do it remotely. They literally said it. So there's proof behind that. Viv B says, well, what are you going to do after you turn your phone on? Are you just never going to use it again? The actual section where they're doing that, if people are worried about upstream surveillance, as far as there's a 4-hour period where it's going to be sending, and if you look into what they're actually saying upstream surveillance is, and you don't want that, if you don't want bulk collection or whatever people believe it's doing, that section, from what we have heard from somebody in telecommunications, is at max going to be 4 hours. So 4 hours, give or take, around it. Or if some people are literally going to be putting their stuff in a Faraday bag, then no, you will not get that text. You will not get it the next day. They can't just send it forever. That would literally put something in infinitum. So they can't just do that. He said that roughly about 4 hours before and after it continually sends, but it can't just float there forever. It can't just, it won't sit there and try to send it to you the next day. The technicality of that doesn't work. But it can, if you turn your phone off and 3 hours later, technically you got that message. If people's beliefs are right, you got that message when it was off, and it was still trying to ping it, and it can only try to retry. It's like calling somebody, and it's if you had like some sort of auto dialer, it's going to keep trying until it gets it, but it can only do that so much without using up bandwidth. So no, that's actually, you can put it in a Faraday bag, and you can make a Faraday bag, or you can do what we suggested. Go get yourself one of the cheaper off-grid bags. They're not expensive, and if you end up using it all the time, then they're totally worth it. But yeah, I think a lot of people are confused about that and debating about it. I mean, it's really simple. Some people don't want that alert, and I think that's everybody's right. If it's your right to buy a phone, and if a person doesn't want to own a cell phone, there's no law that requires you to own one. So if you do own a cell phone, and if you don't want to get something to your phone, we should have every right to be like, I'm not getting that today. Otherwise, that is going to be the biggest alert they've ever sent out on October 4th. On October 3rd, which I see a lot of people saying that there's an alert on the 3rd, on the 3rd is Russia's nationwide exercises. So a lot of people are putting them at the same time. And then we have exclusive. U.S. warned China to expect updated export curbs in October, according to U.S. officials. It said that the Biden administration warned Beijing of its plans to update rules that curb shipments of AI chips and chip-making tools to China as soon as early October. So in the next couple of weeks. And it said a policy decision aimed at destabilizing relations between the superpowers. The Commerce Department, which oversees export controls, is working on an update of export restrictions first released last year. The update seeks to limit access to more chip-making tools in line with the new Dutch and Japanese rules. Other sources said, and to close some loopholes in export restrictions on artificial intelligence chips. It says that the PRC has been expecting an update around 1 year anniversary. Based on conversations with administration officials, the U.S. official said, and it said using the abbreviation for the People's Republic of China. So they are actually expecting something to be coming. And it says U.S. officials provided the information to Chinese counterparts in recent weeks, the official said, which Reuters is reporting for the first time. The official declined to disclose details on the particular conversations. Providing China with a heads up about the rules is part of a broader bid by the Biden administration to stabilize relations with Beijing. So basically to tell them first that they're going to try to screw them over, right? Make sure that they know all before. So Dex, as far as them, they're basically telling them so they don't get hot-headed when it happens. But essentially, this isn't good for business. It doesn't seem like for either side, actually.
No, they were. If you remember a year ago, as we all probably remember, China was really upset when we curbed the chips that were going in, and they've spent the last year trying to recoup from that, which they were trying to build technology and other things to help them resolve that issue. So now we're going to clamp it down even more. So that'll be another, and this is right on the heels or right at the same time that those senators are announcing, hey, we want to meet with you, Xi. If we can come meet with you, then maybe we can discuss this this issue. But we're really coming at it from the side of how you're treating our companies and how the investment community is not wanting to invest in you. But at the same time, there's also this other discussion going on about us allowing you to have our AI technology or not. So we'll see. I don't think it'll take them long to catch up, but this is at least, I guess, binding us at least a year, maybe two out of this by keeping them away from some of the advanced technology that we have.
So there's a comment. There's a super, and thank you, Nuttech99. It says, if you don't have a Faraday bag, you can also wrap your phone with aluminum and put it inside the microwave. This is not my recommendation, by the way. I'm just letting you know. Just don't turn it on. It will block the signal. Just don't forget you have it in there. And JD Etheridge says the only way a microwave will work is if you cook the phone beforehand. I don't know. I don't know who's right on that one. I don't know. You would think that a microwave would have some sort of protection because there's microwaves going on in there. But I don't know if that will work for sure, but you could Google that and see if it will. That definitely seems a bit cheaper than buying any kind of bag for it. But if you definitely want to be sure, go with off-grid. I think that there is good instructions on how to make Faraday bags on EMP Shield's website, I believe. Dex, didn't the EMP Shield, which sells a product,
they made a video about it, how to build a Faraday box and stuff, do it yourself as well. Microwaves do not necessarily stop this, and because they're not designed to prevent signals from coming in and out, they're designed to prevent a reduction, and that's not a zero, but a reduction of the microwaves that leak out, meaning less, not zero. So, you may put your phone in and find that you can call it and it rings. You may put your phone in and find you call it and it doesn't ring. Could just mean that you have a lighter signal there, so it reduced it enough that it didn't work. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're preventing all the signals. Plus, you can't put a microwave in your pocket and take it with you like you can, a little case or something that can block all the signals.
Well, I also think, and that's off-grid, I think it's pretty cool that EMP Shield sells a product, and they also put out a video basically telling you how you could avoid buying their product. Now, it's a lot harder. You can't really, EMP Shield will protect all your stuff, and you can wire it in, and it's a permanent solution. Whereas a Faraday cage, so if you have a laptop, you could make a Faraday cage for it, but at the same time, for whatever reason, if you know when an EMP is happening, if you don't, what are you going to do? Keep your laptop in a Faraday cage the entire time? Maybe even use it and work in a tinfoil space or something, or a chicken wire space? Probably not. The thing is we're not going to get any warning for that, so that's why people get more of that. But as far as something like this, we have warning. If you don't want to go the route of going and buying something, you could always try to do it. But I would do it right and make sure to get somebody to teach you how to do it right, how to make a proper, Faraday bag to stop the signals and stuff. Speaking of which, before we move on, again, EMP Shield, go check them out. You can, of course, protect all your devices, and it's a more permanent thing. Again, they are really cool. If you actually understand, most people think of companies as they think of corporate and everything else. This is a veteran-owned company. All the guys who started this are preppers themselves. When they first started this, it was like barely getting off the ground. And once people got the product and once it was tested, and then once the military saw it, they were like, whoa, this is really cool. Keystone Military tested, then they got huge contracts. And again, they were actually mentioned in the DHS resilience report of 2018 that talked about how all of us should have 6 months to a year of food in the event of an EMP or a CME. And after they got basically snatched up and got contracts with agencies like DOD, DHS, and the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid, then they started growing rapidly. At one point, we didn't even know if they were going to still sell to people. But then when we talked to them, they said, no, we would like pretty much everybody in America to be protected. If you know the guys behind this, they have passion. When they were small, they would literally send us all of the factory that made these by hand. They would walk around and do a Christmas message to the Marfoogle family. So they appreciated each and every customer. That's like old school. Like I was talking about on Marfoogle News, like how Target and all these new places now, customer service is a thing of the past. Like it doesn't exist. They treat everybody like a criminal. They, follow you around no matter who you are. And they look at you like you're crazy if you need to try on a jacket or something. These guys are a lot different. In fact, the most good we've ever heard about any affiliate is the people at customer service here, because it's a small company and you're talking to one of few. So not compared to like calling up a call center of 10,000, right? So make sure to go check this out. This is going to protect your cars, your trucks, your boats, your motorcycles, your ham radios, your generators, your Flex 1500 solar generator, your house. You can get it wired into your house and it will protect everything plugged in within 250 feet. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off with that code. That is a huge, huge discount, and you get it per device. So if you have multiple cars to do and you want to do 2 cars in a house, it will give you $50 off per device, and it will help your favorite independent news. So thank you, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the Pentagon warns Congress it is running low on money to replace weapons sent to Ukraine. Now, Dex,
here we go.
You have a great point here.
Here we go again.
Go ahead.
I can't believe it. I mean, okay, look, the shutdown was paused, and it's probably a decent time we could talk about that. The shutdown was sort of paused for 45 days because they came up with an interim plan. But what they didn't come up with was this huge budget that says, oh, we're going to send all this money over to UKR, or how we're going to fund everything else that the military needs, et cetera. So it's just a 45-day stopgap. So that problem's going to come right back, and we'll be dealing with it in a few days or a few weeks. But what they've come out now and said, oh, by the way, we're running out of money to actually continue sending the munitions or the arms that we require. They say they have about 5.4 billion left, and the only reason they have that is because the 6.2 billion that they mysteriously found in an accounting error. Otherwise, they wouldn't have anything. But the most striking part, Adam, I'd love to know what you think about this. The most striking part is this quote from McCord, and this is the comptroller out of the Pentagon. He goes, we have already been forced to slow down the replenishment of our own forces to hedge against an uncertain funding future. Why are they slowing down the replenishment of our own forces? At the same time, they're saying they don't have the money for the UKR. Why wouldn't they use the we're not putting ourselves first. We're putting someone else first.
You've
always said you can't save somebody.
Don't say if you say put us first, you're racist, dude.
Oh, that's true.
What are you doing?
But you can't save another life. It's sort of like when you're in the airplane and the oxygen mask comes down. They tell you put your mask on first before you help someone else, because you can't help someone else if you don't have one on yourself. Right? It's sort of like you can't save a drowning person if you don't know how to swim. So this makes no sense to me. That's just my opinion on it. But again, here we go. It's the handout.
Read the words.
It's like every day is handout season.
Read the words. We have already been forced to slow down the replenishment being replacing the stuff we used of our own forces to hedge against an uncertain funding future. So because we're broke, we're not replacing our own crap while we're sending stuff to Ukraine, which is not even a democracy. Do people realize this? It is a pluralistic political system. And most people know or supposedly think that somebody picked Mr. Leader there to pick his spot. And there was kind of leaked audio in 2014 and blah, blah, and there's a bunch of stuff that kind of proves that. But anyways, we're literally sending it to somewhere which is, in fact, is it later on that we have the piece about how that they are basically corrupt? Even the U.S. believes they're corrupt.
Yeah, we got that.
It's absolutely nuts to think that. Meanwhile, while our White House is saying that essentially that these guys are corrupt, that we are not replacing our own military equipment. Meanwhile, we are sending it over them. And mind you, while we still have $5 billion left, like there's just a stack of $5 billion. And that $5 billion isn't just like $5 billion. That's $5 billion out of the 6 point something that they said, oh, actually, we didn't spend as much as we thought, but we already wrote it off. So there's an extra $5 billion sitting there. And that was an accounting error because they said that they said that they marked the price that was retail versus bulk or something. Do you remember what the difference was of the money? They said,
yeah, it was some to that effect, that they had used the accounting of the, not the retail value of it or some effect, which would be higher. So that meant they had more money to spend.
Absolutely everybody was like, this is bull. Okay. Nobody believed it was an accounting error. They can screw up like that on that level. You can't find $21 trillion somewhere. You lose $2 trillion in gold or whatever underneath the building, or $2 billion in gold. But if we give somebody $601, okay, they know exactly where that money went. But you can't find this, and then you have an accounting error of $5 billion. It was $6 billion. Give me a break. And then they are telling us they are completely letting our stuff fall apart while they support this. Now, maybe you could look at this like go, okay, then this must be really serious. If we're not funding our own side, then what is this? Is this going to be a world war? It seems like it to me. And it's not because they're like, oh, we're worried about this. It's because world war is what a lot of people up there want. It checks a lot of boxes for the people at the very top. Well, there's less of us around. I mean, you don't see any millionaires signing up for the military, right? You see mostly the folks, especially out of the stats, from the poorer communities that end up going there for career opportunities and everything else, or for just pride for their country. And you see this, and it's like, what the heck? What the hell is going on here? A World War III would definitely get where all of these elites that are on the board of Northrop Grumman and Boeing and all of the other freaking weapons manufacturers, the military industrial complex will be buzzing for 20 years. Do you think they care about loss of life? They account for these things. They account for how many people lose. Do you think Russia cares about these things? No. Do you think China cares about if they lose 2 billion people? No. Well, I guess they don't have 2 billion, but do you think they would care if they lost 100 million people? They have 1.4 billion people. They don't care about somebody they don't know. Neither does our government. Neither does any government of the world. I've yet to find a country that does. This alone, and who is saying it, is so incredible. McCord is literally telling us that we're completely neglecting our own military so we can send it over there to a pluralistic political system. Go look that up and go down that hole. And then Putin's next target, U.S. support for UKR. It says Russia's strategy to win the war in Ukraine is to outlast the West. It says, how does Vladimir Putin plan to do that? American officials said that they are convinced that Mr. Putin intends to try to end U.S. and European support for Ukraine by using his spy agencies to push propaganda supporting pro-Russian political parties and by stoking conspiracy theories with new technologies. So when I see this kind of article, I think, oh, we're about to hear some stuff. What do you guys think? Let's go over to the chat for a second. So when you hear a story that points out that Vlad is about to try to do things by using his spy agencies to push fake news and to propaganda and by stoking theories with new technologies, what do you hear when you see that? Sounds to me like something's about to go down and we're about to be told, oh, it's all just propaganda and fake. But if our mainstream is telling us that, a lot of us go, maybe it is. Like almost everything else that's happened in the past. Dex, they are saying that there's going to be Russian disinformation aims to increase support for candidates opposing UKR aid with the ultimate goal of stopping international military assistance. Now, who would be opposing to UKR aid?
Okay, so this is, I almost wonder if this is not even coming out of Russia, and instead it's coming from, oh, well, by the way, it says it, American officials. So American officials, who we don't know their partisan lies, are telling us that anybody that says you shouldn't support the funding or anything negative towards UKR, well, those are just stooges for Putin, or, oh, by the way, it's really his spies that are coming over here infiltrating. They just basically took over the entire narrative and labeled it the opposite side of one side of the political narrative on UKR and labeled it as being infiltration from Putin. So everything we just talked about in the article before. And by the way, part of the reason for the shutdown looming was negotiations around how much money are we going to spend over there. A big portion of the political faction here is against sending that money. Okay. So they come out and tell us, oh, well, anybody that's doing that, you're a spy. You're not just carrying water. They're labeling it now as spies. So we'll see how long this rhetoric lasts and where it's coming from. And if they can really come up with anything that actually ties it back to Russia. But that would be really interesting if they can't, because it would then very much look like it's Ganda of Ganda.
Jenny Kolonik says it's all a show. I agree with you. And I believe that that we are going to be the unsuspecting audience, and that there's going to be real smoke used in the theater. And it's going to be a Gallagher show where he smashes watermelons and it's going to hit us. Only we're not going to get the warning to pull up the little plastic screen to block ourselves. I think that there is going to be a very real effect on all of us. I believe it is a show, and I believe that there's a lot of plans going on. But a show doesn't necessarily mean it's fake and that it's on TV and it's 2D. We're talking about 3D and 4D, where it's going to affect all of us from the bottom to the top. This is happening right now, and people don't want to believe you when you tell friends and family about this. Like, this is going on, and mainstream media has done a really good job of keeping people calm and keeping people confused to the point where if you're so confused, you can't find top, bottom, left, right. You're completely lost. I feel like many people have a basic grasp that this is about to happen, and whether everybody's high-fiving behind closed doors doesn't change the fact that they don't care about us. They don't care if many of us perish. They don't care if they send all of our sons and daughters away to war. They don't care about that because that's actually what would prosper for them. Somebody said prosperganda. Yeah, ganda that is beneficial, right? The thing is it is most people's opinion now that everything is Ganda. Well, there has to be some truth in there somewhere. And that's what we're stuck doing, is trying to figure out the best we can by looking at patterns and looking at fake stories before and seeing what really happened after they predicted a fake story. Then we look at the real event and we go, well, they said this was going to happen, but this really happened. And if you follow this long enough, you can see these are human beings. They're not flawless. They make mistakes. They come up with stupid ideas, just like ad marketers. And they say, oh, we'll tell them this, but then this will be the truth. You see enough events happen and play out in real life that you go, okay, this is what's going to happen. The pattern, if you follow this long enough, you won't need us to tell you what's up. It's following it closely. I think that almost anybody can see where this is headed if they are following closely enough. Because if you follow closely enough over time, if you're a human being with two brain cells to rub together, you start seeing the pattern of what mainstream does, what they say, how they shape something, and then what ends up happening. You also have enough experience and you see enough events go down with your own eyes, and then you see how they cover that. And you're going, well, I saw that on TV. I saw that event. I saw with my own eyes what happened, and then I saw how they covered it and how they spun it. So when you see that same spin, you go, wait, that means the real event was probably close to what I saw, and then they said it like this. We're in World War III right now, only World War III looks a whole lot different from World War II, because right now there are cyber events, there are spy events, there are setups being done right now. There are people being put in place at the very highest levels of all governments. And there's no real clear winner yet, because the winner say, oh, well, the U.S. will win. Well, what if the U.S. is compromised? What if Russia's compromised? What if China's compromised? How would they be the winner if last minute somebody presses a button behind the door and locks everybody out? This is getting really serious, and people people all around us are just kind of lost. And it's part of it that none of us in our community, even though we're all trying to find the truth, we're all arguing about which theory is the correct theory. Instead of going, okay, if you believe this, I believe this, and he believes that, what are the common traits of all three? And we could say thoroughly that we all agree on that. Instead, they go, I disagree with what you think, and I'm not going to talk to you. You're an idiot. That I hope I communicated that clearly. Ben, thank you. James Carlson, thank you. Jen, thank you. Lady Yell, aye, Captain. Fog of Clown World War. Funny enough, Elon Musk just posted a clown emoji and a world emoji. I don't know if that was a shout out to the Twitter account Clown World without shouting him out, but something bad is about to happen. Quintus, it's happening right now, and many people are not really realizing how serious it's going to get. And then Mexico president slams U.S. military support for UKR. It said that out of Reuters, Mexican President Andres Manuel López Obrador on Monday panned U.S. military aid to Ukraine, suggesting it was, quote, irrational, and stepped up criticism of the war effort as he urged Washington to devote more resources to help Latin American countries. Wait, I'm sorry. So why do we owe everybody help? López Obrador has long called on the United States to devote more funds to helping economic development in Central America and the Caribbean in order to ease migratory pressures. Oh. So if you make it better here, they won't be trying to get up to your country. Or, Mr. President, you could start doing whatever you could to make your country better so people stop trying to leave. Like, hey, give us more money so people stop fleeing our country to yours. That doesn't make sense. During his regular daily press conference, López Obrador criticized the U.S. Congress for not freeing up money for the region before making reference to wrangling last week on the stopgap funding bill that stripped out further aid for UKR. It says, quote, I was just looking at how now they're not authorizing aid for the war in UKR. He said, but how much money have they destined for the Ukraine war? $30 to $50 billion for the war, which is the most irrational thing you can have. and damaging. It says, so they do not have to modify their strategy and learn respect. It's not the time for them to ignore Mexican authorities. It's like, I bet a lot of other smaller countries are looking at that and go, $50 billion? You know what we could do with that? Our country could be a utopia. But it's going towards dudes flying drones over fences and destroying tractors. It's craziness. Or driving tanks right into a space coordinated missile attack that just wipes it off the map in 2 seconds. And then Elon Musk actually posted, when it's been 5 minutes and you haven't asked for $1 billion in aid. Just wanted to put that out there. Elon Musk posted that. And then, why do so many American politicians from both parties care 100 times more about the border than the USA border? It's a good point, right? Like I said, Elon says a lot of stuff that most people are like, yeah, of course. I thought, man, is Elon trying to, run for president at some point? But as Dex pointed out, I forgot, he is not an American citizen. He was not born here. Or he's a citizen, but he wasn't born in America, which is one of the main things. Why do you guys think that Elon is getting so political all of a sudden? Or is this on purpose? Is he just shouting out his opinions? Because he used to be like, more liberal center, and he had some views about things that, like he said, he actually posted a thing that basically said, if you were a liberal back in the late 60s, you are now a right-leaning, could even border on extreme. Like if you're for free speech and all that stuff, now you're on the right side. What do you guys think about why is he getting involved in this kind of stuff? Dex, what do you think? Why I'm surprised. I when I see this, I was like thinking, he's really going hard lately. The last few weeks especially, he's been posting nonstop about his opinions about the border. He's going down to the border. That looks like he's trying to go into politics or something. Maybe he wants to go into Senate or Congress.
Well, look, he became the richest man in the world without going into politics. So I guess what's left? Maybe getting into it somehow. But look, I think when I look at this and look at the bigger picture of everything we just talked about, all of this as a complete unit, I think that you can easily see the divide, whether it's the Mexican president, whether it's Elon, whether it's certain members of Congress and the Senate that want to push back against UKR. And then, of course, you've got the incumbent or the existing administration and that side of the political spectrum that are all for supporting and moving forward with more money. And then this label now that they want to come out with. That's what's so interesting about this, is how it's being packaged up right now and presented to us. On the flip side, or on another side, another angle, you could easily look at Elon as being another corraler of voices. And if you think about it, before we had Elon, not that he was gone, but before he was as big as he was, the other person that did that was our former president. He had corralled a lot of voices and had a lot of people behind him. Some say he still does, but at least not in the social media sense. There's not, the person who's doing that more so than anyone else is Elon. So the big question, I think rightfully so, asked by many people is he true? Or is he just there to corral a bunch of voices to sort of, and then maybe direct them somehow at the hands of the people above that are in charge? We don't know. I don't know. And I have, I want to believe in the guy, but I also have a lot of skepticism there as well.
Bobby Birch says, in my opinion, he's absolutely entitled to his opinion. I agree with his opinion. I'm totally saying, yeah, with you. Jammer said, I could totally see him running for president. But again, Jammer, he can't. You have to be a naturalized citizen born in America. So he couldn't do that, but he could go for Congress and senator, which you think about. Somebody says, he probably just believes it or whatever. Yeah, that's true, but you have to think at what risk he's doing. when you get involved in politics and you are this high up in the totem pole of owning companies and getting contracts from the government, if you're on the wrong side, all of a sudden you stop getting contracts, you get canceled, you do this, do that. So it sticks out because most billionaires, they go with whatever they have to say. Most of them can say whatever they want to their friends. They'll have parties during CV. They'll be, taking their covering off and drinking Boris Johnson style. They'll do all that behind closed doors. But in front of an audience, they're completely different. What really gets people about Elon is he says things that really people are afraid to say. And a lot of people could say, well, he's the richest man in the world, so I bet that plays into it. Like, who cares? Even if I do get canceled, it's like I've got $280 billion in my bank account. Who cares? It's a freedom that most of us do have envy for. Like, what if you literally didn't matter what happened, who came after you, if somebody did this or that you would still have enough money not only to retire. I mean, most of us are just worried about retiring and not being homeless when we're 70 years old. People like this, they're worried about legacies like, 500 years from now, their great grandkids, or their legacy, or they're more worried about having a statue on Mars or something, right? Because he's got goals way up at the top. His goals aren't to retire. Guy's got money. So when he says things like this, it's taking a huge risk for all of his companies. All of his companies take a hit. And it makes you wonder, like, why would he do that? Especially, they're now talking, Ackman was talking about X going public again. Something doesn't sit right with me. It seems like he's purposely getting all the hate for some reason. Like he's meant to be the target for a while. But things can flip overnight. Everybody could love him one day. They did. And then everybody hated him. People on both sides gave him crap for this or that. But that can change in a day too. It's so crazy how social media and how the world works and culture. People decide on a whim with people's careers and lives. But as far as, the border right now, they say it's a controversial subject. Why? I don't understand it. Like right now, there are bad people coming in. They know that. It's a fact. And we're not talking about just refugees. We're talking about people that want to hurt every single one of us here for where we were born. And I don't understand why that's even a controversial subject. All part of the great distraction, says Matthew Shaw. Schaefer Girl, hey, nice to see you guys. Thank you, Twist Me. Rooted, Mizo, DEFCON 3. Let's see here. Old Believer. It doesn't matter if he lost it all. He knows how to build it back. You could almost say how to build it back better. Remember, to build back, you have to tear it down first. And then leaked U.S. strategy on UKR sees corruption as the real threat. The U.S. is literally saying that UKR is corrupt. A report obtained by Politico details specific plans to reform institution and warns Western support may hinge on cutting corruption. No, really? Hey, Dex. They're thinking we may want to cut the corruption if we're going to send them money.
How are all these politicians going to line their pockets?
And this had to leak. This is what we've all said since the very beginning. And now it's a leaked document, and it's like, it's a like a duh moment. Even Mr. Gates, somebody who doesn't have a lot of respect in our community, even he said UKR is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I am just blown away. I'm not blown away, but at the same time, it's so bad it's comical. They are what I mean, how do people not see this? The 9, not 1 or 2, not like the guy underneath uh, Zelensky. 9 guys resigned and left in a day because they were questioned on how they got multi-million-dollar mansions and supercars. The country doesn't have power, but they've got Ferraris. Yeah. And remember, that's all on our tab as taxpayers. Absolutely nuts. How are you doing, Pappy Jack? Nice to see you. Lord Andrews in the house. Jay Avila. Wide awake and angry. Our tax money. Yep. Adam, they're rubbing it in our faces. Follow the money, says Cooter. Slim Shady 76. Gates plays with mosquitoes. Yes. DNA spliced ones. Ferrari Pinto. Tristan Green. Yeah. Can they even have access to Ferraris over there? They probably have like an off-brand that's like $1 million anyways, but it explodes if it gets rear-ended. America, says Darth V. Patrix 421. Nice to see you. Joe that you know. Nice to see you again. Nice smoke 'em if you got 'em, says Matt. And then Mahaya says, supercars, I need an oil change and some tires on my 20-year-old car. A Ferrari. Says Tristan Green. We can't have reporters embedded with UKR soldiers. They will suspend the from there. Zelensky jails Orthodox priests and says it's a democracy. It's not. It's just not. That's not the fact. Where's my old school Foogle fam? If you're not chatting, get in the chat. Get in the chat and say hi. I want to see some old school Foogle fam. Craig Jacob, Ryan Alter. We got Schaefer Girl, old school. Red's Homestead. I woke up in a cheap Bugatti. I just saw a short about one of the rappers was flexing on a 2008 Bugatti, and it was like 50 Cent commenting on how he's like, yeah, he flexed a 2008 Bugatti, but the car dealership was laughing at the guy like he's a dummy, because if you buy a $700,000 12-year-old Bugatti, you're basically stuck with something nobody else is going to buy. Like, they were like looking at him like he's a sucker. Oh man, could you imagine car depreciation, like buying a $30,000 car and it immediately drops to $15,000? Imagine spending $2 million on a car, and the second you drive off the lot, it's like worth $500,000. That would just, I don't know how they do it. All so people can stare at you and go, ooh, cool car. What other reason? Oh, I can go 200 miles an hour, but never be able to actually legally do it? I don't know. I guess it's the feeling like being on a roller coaster that you die instantly if it stops suddenly. All right. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Inergy, marfooglenews.com. Again, you can get one of the best solar generators on the market. It's expandable. This is, again, one of the coolest tools in your arsenal as far as if you are a prepper. This is a must-have, especially if you are not somebody who can store gallons and gallons, if not barrels of gasoline. If SHTF happens, it's going to be extremely hard to get gas. And as we've seen with just regional smaller events, gas stations had 4 or 5 hour lines, and that's not even an SHTF situation. So solar is a great backup. One, if you get solar panels, you will have unlimited power. Again, this is a cool system because not only can you expand it up to 96 batteries, but you can actually change it, mod it however you like, and you can make it the system of your dreams because mods work just like the batteries. They're bricks that essentially work like Lego and snap in. So you can make it whatever system you want. You can have as many or as little power as you would like. And again, it is built like a tank. So go check it out. They also have an EMP shield that they directly make for this. So if you want to back it up, you can as well. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Not to mention it's silent and you can run it in the house, so you don't have to worry about anybody hearing you from 3 blocks away that you are the only one in the neighborhood with power. Not a good thing, especially when people are desperate and freaking out about whatever SHTF happens. Now, this is good for regular power outages. If you lose power in your house a lot, if you have storms, this can keep you rolling. This can keep your family from going to a hotel or to a family's house during elongated power outages. And, of course, it is portable. So it can go with you. It can go with you to work. It can be used for tools. It can, in fact, a lot of folks who own the independent contracting businesses, or if you do construction on the side, this is a great thing because you can literally write this off as a work thing. Use it for your tools and things like that. All right, go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And Russia may be planning to test a nuclear-powered missile. So it's all in the words. It is not a nuclear missile. It's a nuclear-powered missile. Dex, this is something that's not exactly new, but it's definitely they're testing again in somewhat. So that's what's catching people's attention.
Yeah, certainly. We talked about this back in at least 2018, if not 17. But they've got, I think it's called Skyfall, has been one of the names of it, the SSCX-9. And they, these are basically some sort of nuclear propelled. They use kind of like you think of a nuclear sub, has its own engine, but it's basically a nuke or nuclear power plant that generates the electricity that's then used to drive it. This is a different type of propulsion, but it is also using nuclear power to propel, which could give it obviously greater strength and power, potentially greater distance. We recall that last time it happened, it was kind of squirrely, and the test wasn't. They tried to make it look like it went off without a hitch, but then there was some questionable stuff that happened that a lot of folks were like, was there any leaking? Or because obviously it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and they weren't sure if any of the materials that were in the engine, we'll call it not in the missile, but in the engine of the missile, caused any type of harm to people around it. So, but we'll see. This is happening up in the Arctic.
So, and for years, people have wondered what the heck is going on in the Arctic. People all have their theories of what's going on. There's no fly zones in a lot of the areas. Doesn't matter if it's the U.S. controlled, Russian controlled, China controlled areas, whatever it may be. There's probably more stuff going on than we think. Obviously, people even think that Adolf survived and went to Antarctic, to the Arctic regions and has bases there and everything else. Vicky K said something that actually stuck out to me. It said, those freeze dryer machines are cost prohibitive. I looked at them seriously. By that, I think you mean like if you get one. I see what you're saying there. But one thing I will say is not for everybody, because if you think about it, yes, for you to do it, and to make it valuable is you have to freeze dry a lot of food. And for some of us that are prepping pretty hardcore, then when you start getting into it, when you start buying the amount of food, especially if you have multiple people in your family, you have 6 people in a family, 7 people in a family, then you have to actually have a whole lot of food. And when you do the math of how much food you'll need in a 6-month period or a 12-month period, it adds up a lot. And if you're thinking about every $15 on average for a freeze-dried food, meal, then it gets a whole lot cheaper. Otherwise, if you have special dietary requirements or if you have gardens and things like that, then you waste money just by gardening and then it going to waste. Whereas you could freeze-dry that, preserve it for 25 years. This isn't like an affiliate thing. This is my personal opinion about that because since we picked up the harvest rate, people have asked a lot of questions about that. As far as I'm concerned, I think that if it depends on all the person. And yeah, I think that some people won't. If you're a single person, maybe you might be able to get by with going the paid route. But as far as, people with Crohn's, or if you have any kind of intestinal stuff, you might have to be very, very careful about what food you're going to be keeping. So you can't just get any kind of food that's freeze dried, because there might be stuff in it you can't even eat. So that one of the big reasons I want to freeze dry is because of the dietary stuff and not being able to find it in pre-packaged foods. But yeah, it is expensive to get into freeze drying. That's why, again, we've given you that affordable way to get the pre-done, pre-made food. And then pro-Russia hackers claim responsibility for crashing British royal family's website. There's hacks all the time. Just hundreds of thousands of different cyber events going on every day now. When you see ones like this, it kind of makes you go like, why? But pro-Russia hackers have supposedly claimed responsibility for a cyber attack that crashed the royal British family's website over the weekend. The website, royal.uk, went down for over an hour Sunday morning due to a denial of service attack. Now, I want to point out, Sunday morning, I saw a bunch of stuff go down, not just the royal British family. It makes me think that there was a bigger attack and they're just picking out the big ones that people paid attention to, and they're trying to say that this was a pro-Russian thing. It very well could have been, but what if it was something else? What if it was a group that did ransomware on everybody? Sunday morning, did you guys, any of you also see this? There were like several websites, gaming things, all sorts of things went down. People couldn't go to regular things. I think something big happened on Sunday and it just went completely unnoticed. That's my opinion. Dex, I didn't talk to you on Sunday, but I saw a bunch of stuff was down and I thought it was weird. And not until today I saw this and I go, oh, I didn't even know about this. But I didn't think about it. It was Sunday morning when all sorts of things got hit, in my opinion.
Totally understand how that would could play out, that they would make this the story. And I say that because when you look at the narrative between of this conflict, you simply at the surface you go, oh, it's just Russia against UKR. But in reality, what we hear so much about is Russia maybe invading Poland next, or Russia's main enemy here with NATO has been UK. It's like every time they get a chance to call out the fact that the UK is in the crosshairs of Russia, they do. They've talked about it from nukes. They've talked about it from other aspects against them. They were snubbed at different events, which that's kind of given the way the nations around the world have snubbed Russia from just about everything except for their own allies. But there just seems to be this constant finger pointing between Russia and UK, almost so that they're, in my opinion, they may be setting it up so that as things do get heated, while Poland may be part of the close proximity of what may go down, UK is certainly one of the first targets. And when you see something like this story come out and say that they're either blaming Russia hackers, or Russian hackers are taking credit for taking down something that's UK related, that just goes back to that narrative they've been painting.
Well, pretty much everything they can blame on Russia. And we talked about this last week, how, if you call out the BS here, and if it's anything related to Russia, then people go, oh, you're supporting Russia, or you're carrying Putin's water, or you're part of the thing. I think mainstream media has a couple scapegoats they use for everything, and it could be stuff that's happening on our own side. It could be stuff that's happening to us, but they have an easy out. They're able to say everything is this, or everything is that. They also lie a bunch, and then they say, oh, it's because of this. Like they said that all of the inflation is purely because of this conflict over there. It's like there was a lot of mistakes that our country made and our administration made and a bunch of other countries made that are totally playing into this total screw up of inflation, shrinkflation, everything else. And they get to easily just blame somebody else. nobody wants to take accountability. And now that they have the big bad wolf, they can just blame the big bad wolf. Well, it definitely is a big bad wolf, but it's not like when they blame Trump for, they literally put out articles blaming him for a storm, like a hurricane. They're like, oh, they would make headlines like that. Like, well, it's probably because of his law change 3 years ago that this happened. It's like, what? You can't blame somebody for an act of God. Sorry. And then Ukraine hit Russia's Navy base in Crimea so hard that it is likely pulling some missions back to safer waters, UK intel says. It says the UK intelligence assessment said that some of Russia's naval operations in the Black Sea have been relocated following recent Ukraine attacks on its Crimean base. The UK's Ministry of Defense said that on Monday that the threats had likely pushed some of Russia's Black Sea fleet activities to move to the port of Novorossiysk. And it didn't specify which vessels or activities have relocated. So that was, again, a comment by the Ministry of Defense. And Ukraine has ramped up attacks on Russia's Black Sea fleet in recent weeks, including striking its headquarters at the Crimean port of Sevastopol on September 22nd. A week earlier, Ukraine sent 10 cruise missiles crashing into its shipyard, damaging a submarine and a landing craft. So if it is true that they have done this much damage and they've done this many attacks right into Russian-controlled territory, then I would expect that they're going to retaliate, whether it be, obviously they've done a lot of strikes back, but they could also retaliate in cyber events against the U.S. because they believe the U.S. is completely responsible for almost all of those attacks. We know this because they said it out loud. They said that the U.S. and our infrastructure and NATO infrastructure helped Ukraine hit all of these targets down to the literal location and all of the information coming from the U.S. and UK and NATO. So, and then, Dex, do you want to talk about NATO testing underwater drones?
So this goes back to the UK thing again as well, but we've talked quite a bit about the infrastructure that is underwater, whether it be undersea cables, power lines, connections for the internet and telecommunications, all of that. They are now NATO is testing the using of these drones to monitor more closely all of that undersea infrastructure. So this is coming out according to a report. It's my assumption that most of that, while maybe some of the testing, I think they say is off of Portugal, I think where they're probably going to see a significant release of this is going to be around the UK. That's where we saw some of the lines that were cut. We had one way back when this first got started with a power connection between, I want to say it was between the UK and France that runs through there. Of course, there's the tunnel that runs between there as well. But there's a lot of infrastructure, especially between UK and Europe. And then, of course, connecting Europe back over to the States and to other locations. So this I guess is a defense mechanism to sort of try to figure out what the potential of the adversary subs, in this case Russia's subs or other tech that they may be deploying to have in its ability to cut those lines or cause damage to those lines.
So, as all the talk about the underwater cables being cut, got to watch. And then shameful, Elon Musk accuses Justin Trudeau of crushing free speech. Well, kind of has, and he kind of took people's bank accounts away when they protested. SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk slammed the Justin Trudeau government in Canada for crushing free speech in the country. Mind you, by the way, thank you, by the way, for the super there. Thank you, and thank you, Steve, and then Bill, and sorry, I almost missed that. You said something about free speech over there. Free speech should be a given. Thank you for that support. Renegade PD, Badger 1, thank you over on D-Live. Scooby-Doo Right, Vicky K, thank you for the diamond as well. Just Jim, thank you for the diamond over on D-Live. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. And Neil Nelson, thank you. Ilea, please send prayers. Thank you again for that. I appreciate it. Please send prayers to Wages World. Got that. And then, hold on, I missed something here. Oh, Bible Talk 777. Thank you. Much love, prayers, and blessings to everyone. Sorry, but we were never a Christian nation, yet people are still voting and hoping one is their savior, says AJ. Never a Christian nation. Well, I don't know how they say that it was by stats or something. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we are one now. That's for sure. We are the daughter of Babylon of Revelation. Study that out, says Mitch Mouth. Again, and then Julie Pilkerton. Thank you for the chuckles tonight. You guys are amazing. We are the greatest country in the world, and we will never lose our faith or hope. We are examples of Christ's love and hope. Oh, I get AJ's comment now. And then I would say best Granda has truth and misinformation mixed together. Oh, the best Ganda has truth and misinformation. You can't, there is no solid lie without a tiny bit of truth involved. I know that the most influential lies, especially told about people, I know that the worst stuff about me, there have been tiny bits of truth mixed in with. That's how they convince you. Because if there's one little thing that can be verified, then people believe the rest. Yeah, no, I agree. Here's my thing, is people think that everything, the whole thing is manufactured. There's parts of it that are true. They spin it, and you have to kind of look at how they do marketing, how they do spins. PR and the spin people, the spin doctors, they will turn one situation into something completely different by how people perceive it. How these celebrity people deal with their, how the celebrity PR people deal with disasters. Like they could take Amanda Bynes shaving her head and running out in the street. If she had if the right PR person was on that, they would make it into a sob story that would turn her into a celebrity for weeks and people feel bad for her. Or they could turn her into a complete pariah and have TMZ following around laughing at her. It's all how they spin it and how they change it. But yeah. And then let's see here. As far as Elon, and it says the Canadian government, armed with one of the world's most repressive online censorship schemes, announces that all online streaming services that offer podcasts must formally register with the government to permit regulatory controls. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen yet, but there are a bunch of people making videos about this. They say it's the death of the internet. Canada, by the way, is a huge chunk of our viewership, and a lot of the folks I watch are actually in Canada. This is actually, you probably don't realize it, the people in chat, and there's a lot of folks from Canada normally. Now, I've seen this weaned out over one law change or another. Over one law change or another, that it's been weaned progressively out. And I've seen the Canadian audience shrink and shrink and shrink, and that's because U.S. and other content's not being served to Canada. Canadians aren't being served to us anymore. And this is also part of their other things, their those regulations they passed about not being Canadian enough content, that stuff, that is kicking in. And that's really, really crazy. Canada's also, Trudeau has actually said a lot of like very complimentary things about G. I'm going to try to fix my light decks, but before I do, just a reminder, make sure to go and check out Off Grid. A lot of people were talking about what they're going to put their phones in for the 4th. This is our suggestion. If you do want to block everything, go over to marfooglenews.com/offgrid. What's being pictured is the backpack. These are like super badass Faraday bags for your tablets, everything else. They also have a duffel bag that can work for like you can basically put all of your electronics in it if you want to, have everything protected. But what we're suggesting for the 4th is a very cheap and affordable bag that's basically just holds your cell phone, your tablet, whatever. Those bags are small, and they even have a wallet that's like a trifold that turns into a cell phone holder. So again, look at the one. There's also one that has a window, so you can still touch the screen of your phone, and it blocks all of the stuff. So if you don't want that alert, this is what people are talking about. They're getting the off-grid bags. It's up to you, though. Some people don't care about the bulk collection. Once you kind of learn about what they're doing with this data, they're not just like looking at your pictures or something. They're using it to literally create profiles that they could control you with, making technology that could literally control you. It's really quite nefarious. So go to marfugglenews.com/offgrid. Believe what you want to believe as far as that goes, but go ahead and go through some of our older videos about that. It's crazy. Dex, I'm going to try to fix this light here. Let's talk about top Chinese scientist says India's moon landing not even close to South Pole.
Well, so I don't know if they're just bitter. Everybody's been racing to the moon, especially in the space arena, specifically trying to get landers there, wanting to build bases there. Who's going to claim territory now? For what it's worth, China is the only country that still has a rover that's functional on the moon. But they've come out and they're basically saying, hey, according to us, India didn't even hit the landing zone. You're not even in the area you claim to be in. So this is going to add a lot of fodder and questions to the whole topic of what's going on the moon, especially when two major countries, of course, they tend to be a little adversarial at times. Sometimes they cooperate, like around BRICS, but outside of that, they tend to have a lot of conflict. So in this scenario, in the race for the moon, there seems to be some conflict, and China definitely wants to point out what they think is the obvious, that they are wrong and that they did not land where they claimed to land. And I guess that would then ask the question, well, did they land there at all? Right? No, everybody wants to ask that question because that topic of the moon is always a very rife one. So anyway, that's the claims being made. There's some technical details in there about why they claim it, but it's more, I think, interesting just to see the jockeying going around the space agencies of these large countries that are all
why are they
just
going
in a hurry to get there. They're all in a hurry to get there. They want to mine it. They want to, whoever gets there first wants to claim a base and maybe even claim the territory as a whole.
Yeah, so something's not right. They're not telling us everything about what's going on with the moon. If they are truly going, and if all of these countries are truly sending their landers, like why? We're not going to get the truth. They're having secret meetings, and we'll get little tiny bits and pieces as it comes out. But maybe they already know. Maybe we already know the answer, but it's been chopped up as just a theory, right? This is not, though. I talked about this on news. Share that video out. Target announces major policy change with Homeland Security to combat theft as shoplifting scourge shutters stores. First of all, everything that's been going on since CV started, it's just went off the charts. Like shoplifting before that was crazy, but I don't think any of us can say we've seen what we've seen now. Now, we're not talking about just like breaking windows and looting like we've seen since all the protests and the be this and the be that. We're talking about people going in on a regular basis every single night, dozens of them going in, taking just full shopping carts of stuff and walking right out. Now, one of my buddies said, well, you have to feel for them like they're homeless, they're drug addicted, this and that. No, there's a lot of people going through hard times, but somebody who's just trying to get by for the day doesn't take $2,000 worth of Lego, throws in 8 outfits, does all this, they're, and then to have 4 more guys do it and then they all hustle. Like this is like straight up massive amounts of just theft. Like they're taking everything and anything. And you're thinking, oh, well, this is a people thing. Well, what's screwed up is the system was basically letting people do it. Just like if you say, oh, come to the border, nobody's going to turn you around, people are going to do it. In fact, that spread, and because that was the message, which they knew what was going to happen, it spread throughout the world. A wave went around the world, and all of a sudden you had people, their pipe dreams just came true. That, boom, we could just go in there and be an American citizen. With this, it was like people were shoplifting, and what was happening is word spread, hey, they're not doing anything. They're not sending us to jail. They're letting people out of jail. Heck, they released thousands and thousands of nonviolent offenders, which probably in a lot of cases wasn't bad, but they've released some nasty ones too during CV because they didn't want, they were overfilled in the jails and they didn't want the CV to spread and all this. Well, they were letting people go, and this message reverberated around the country that if you go and steal $3,000 worth of stuff, doesn't matter what amount, you can just walk out. They can't do anything to you. Not just like they can't touch you because they're going to get sued. Like even if you get the cops outside and they put you in the cop car, they'll take your picture and then they'll let you go. Now, there might be a consequence later down the road. You might have to go to court, and then they'll give you a fine, or they might give you some CUNY certs, but there really wasn't harsh punishments. All these harsh punishments were changed by legal tactics and politicians saying, oh, well, they don't deserve to be in jail for this or that. Well, guess what happens? Now, Target's shutting 9 stores because the theft is so bad. And I can attest to this. 2 of the stores are here, and I've been to those stores, and maybe that's why people didn't understand what I was saying when I said it was every time I went into Target, people were filling up carts. You would even drive, on my drive home, I would see a major corner on just a random street across the street, and there'd be like 8 or 10 shopping carts with people all trading stuff. Like people would have comforters, and they'd be handing the comforter, and one guy would be giving him a Lego, and one guy would be giving him a DVD player. They were just like swapping stuff, whatever they got. It was like an open air market for this stuff, right? Well, since nobody got arrested, people weren't even getting like banned, or they would get a picture taken of them and then released that same day. They were like, well, shoot, if I do this 10 times and don't get caught, I could get $10,000. The thing is, oh, okay, the people are bad. Well, guess what? They made this happen. And now what happens? Target has one of the craziest systems, facial recognition, all of this. This whole time they've been recording these guys' faces. It's not like eventually these guys probably will get in trouble. But guess what happens in the meantime? They did it for 3 years. They reverberated around the country. So now everybody's looting, everybody's stealing, which they will punish these people eventually for. But they wanted to make it to where now it's such a bad problem that the public goes, we need some sort of solution. People can't even go shopping because all the shelves are bare. Now everybody's calling for it. They're like, gosh, get cops in there, get something. Well, they're literally teaming up with Homeland Security. Why does Homeland Security need to be in a Target? It doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm sorry. I guess it does make sense because the theft is so bad, but that means you have the Department of Homeland Security involved in Target. That's way overkill. And guess what? They're not going to just delete your information or your facial recognition information when they see, oh, well, he paid for his stuff. Oh, let's hit delete. No. And this is going to spread through multiple stores. If you haven't noticed, doesn't matter if you're going to a grocery store or somewhere else, they have everything locked up. If you go to Fred Meyer here, you can't try on a shirt that doesn't have a bike chain through it. And then they literally have to walk you up like you're a child to the. It doesn't matter if you're done shopping or not. They have to walk you up and hand it because they can't hand it to you. You're probably going to steal it. That's how you feel when you go into a store now. It doesn't matter if you are that person or not. If you buy a Lego for your kid, they have to walk it up front with you. If you buy a weight from the freaking exercise aisle, they've got to walk it up for you to the front desk. Or they've got to leave it at aisle 8 because you can't be trusted with it. That's how they treat customers nowadays. This is passion for me because I've seen so many of these carts just go out and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, I'm spending money on this overpriced thing that I can't afford, and they're just walking out with 50 of them. It does piss me off. And it should piss you off too, because it was manufactured. And now what is the end game? Now they've got DHS monitoring the already crazy facial recognition and forensics labs that Target has. And now it's starting to make sense. Same company that stayed open during CV. Meanwhile, while your favorite ma and pa shop was closed, this is all part of it. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say, Adam, if you could jump to the very end of this article, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that were really important, I think, from the tech perspective of this. So they highlight in this technology and what they're doing with the DHS is making significant investments in cyber defense to combat retail theft. That keyword there, retail, means in store. Doesn't mean online. Otherwise, it would be called online theft. They don't really have an online theft. You don't shoplift from an online store. Okay. So this cyber defense is exactly what you're talking about, but there's a lot more to it that I don't think everybody's really thinking about besides just the potential of facial recognition, which we knew they had built up for their own needs, they being Target. Continuing, it says partnering with the Department of Homeland Security division to combat that theft, applying their cyber capabilities to combat organized retail crime. Okay. Advanced threat capabilities to track organized crime groups, tools, and services, and develop custom tools to prevent and detect criminal activity and integrating them into online and in-store processes, and then expanding the scope of that to better capture fraudulent activities from these organized crime groups. This is all, with the exception of that one little thing of saying and online, this is all about in store, but they're taking it at a cyber level. They're more than likely going to be opening the coffers of all of their data to DHS and partnering with DHS to help solve this problem. And it's not just facial recognition, but think about every single credit card transaction, every single ticket item of everything that's ever been purchased or not purchased, having access to all of that data and being able to build it and make profiles so that they can start to understand everyone. This is one step, one major leap, probably not just a step, towards social credit systems, where our government is getting involved in something that is so germane to our daily activities, which is going into a retail store and buying something, whether it be groceries or just home goods, whatever it is you need. You know, Target is one big chunk of that. And I'm sure this is potentially happening in others like Walmart and others. We just don't hear about it. This one, they happen to be talking about it because it came out as part of an answer to a question that they had about why they were closing these stores.
But wait, 4 years ago, before all this CV and looting started, they're shutting doors, even though you would think, since they've had the best forensics labs, a better forensics lab than your local police department has, you think that 4 years back, that puts us right at, that's before CV. So all of those people should be paying restitution, and you would think they would get some of their money back by community service or something, or restitution. But none of those people got arrested. So yeah, you don't get that money back, and insurance has to cover it. But why would insurance cover it? Unless maybe somebody was paying Target on the side saying, hey, just deal with it for a little bit longer. We're going to put this in. Now, this forensics lab has facial recognition from your trips to the store for the last 4, 5, 6 years. And all of that data is now going to be game. If you've ever been to a Target in the last 4 years, they have your facial recognition data, and that now goes to DHS. This is so much bigger than people know. I just don't see how this is all happening. I didn't think my life would have all of these things happen back to back to back. The illusion of freedom is gone. It's just gone. It's DHS and forensics labs. Well, you go buy a $8 Super Mario t-shirt. Like, come on. Like, this is so over the top. DHS partnering with Target to look at your facial recognition data. Where do they stop the buck? Where does it cross the line into getting into all of our stuff? That means DHS is going to use the data they already have, and they're going to team up, and they're going to watch everything and record everything you buy and your profiles. And who knows if one of the other agencies isn't compromised, and maybe another country is actually trying to gain that data, or they'll be able to now go in and hack your Target data And people would go, I don't care if they see what I buy at Target. You don't understand. It's your actual. They take fingerprints at frickin' Target. They're not kidding when they say that the Target has a better forensics labs than your police department. It's absolutely nuts. And this is 4 years ago. It says that they're so good, in fact, that they help various law enforcement agencies solve their crimes. Target's forensics labs, when they're not busy, they're helping law enforcement. Insanity. This is why people need to share that video out. It's going to be a bigger subject. Watch. I bet you people are going to be making videos on TikTok coming up in the next couple months, and they're going to be, oh my gosh, look at this. There's a DHS tag on my thing. Or oh, when I go to the thing now, it says you are being monitored by DHS. There's going to be little signs all over Target that people are going to make cute TikToks about, but it's never going to do anything about it. It's nuts. I'm flabbergasted. All right. Renegade PD Beer Juice. Thank you, all of you. Kimbria, Kiki Gray. Thank you, everybody that's going back and forth with the lemons over there. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Bible Talk 777, AJ Mitchmouth. Thank you, Bible Talk again. Let's see here. Adam, why do you think I get more subs when I do stupid joke short, but on a highly edited serious video like the Masonic founders of USA? Why do you think? Well, because everything's going towards short content, Bible Talk. They don't do... They're trying to gear all of us to have a 15 to 60 second attention span. They're pushing shorts more than anything. People sit on YouTube for hours now on shorts and just keep swiping just like they do on TikTok. That is the addictive process of always having new information and every 4 videos having something funny or something that actually makes you crack up. That's hard to do with long form content. They say that they're bridging into long form content because they would much rather, instead of you swiping through those videos, they want you to go to the long form content so they can then serve you advertisements. But yeah, that's why you're getting more subs from that, because your shorts are probably doing just as good or better, or it's how people consume now. I'm afraid for this next generation. It's terrifying. They're not going to have attention spans. They're not going to have manners. They're not going to have morals. And they need to get off my lawn. All right. And then Dex, let's go over the web only real quick. If you were curious about what I was talking about, somebody asked, what is harvest rate? These are the freeze dryers we were talking about. They're not cheap. So that I would highly recommend getting the $300 off with marfuglenews.com/freeze. That is on the pro models. And again, this way you can freeze dry whatever you would like, customize your food, very easy to use. And again, they're much bigger than you think. These are big machines. So again, they are built very well. They are, again, a very useful thing, especially if you want to do your own food. It preserves food for up to 25 years. It is the best way to preserve food. It is one of the safest ways and one of the most efficient of keeping all the flavor in too. All right, let's go over the web only. We got a lot here, actually. A lot of T-Man stuff.
Yeah, we certainly do. The news is really wanting to cover a lot of political stuff, keep us distracted from everything else going on in the world. But this is where you go. You go to marfuglenews.com. You click on the thumbnail for the show, or you open up that show notes link. It's down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage. Scroll down past everything we just covered. So if you're looking for our sources, they're there. You hit the yellow bar. It says overflow. You're in the right spot. This is the rest of the story. Aside from the Rizvani tank that's there, if you want to enter and win, you can see that. But then we get into the political stuff. So we definitely, Trump has started his lawsuit, or not his lawsuit, New York's lawsuit against him. It started today. He's on trial there. Some interesting things have been said. An odd thing is that this trial is being settled by the judge. He did not elect for a trial by jury. So we'll see what the judge doesn't seem to be liking him at this, but he doesn't like T-Man doesn't like him either. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. It seems kind of crazy. I personally would have probably asked for a jury trial, but anyway, Speaking of T-Man, there's an alleged book story out there that says that they tried to offer him $5 billion for a book deal for him not to run in 2020. So if you want to learn more about that, and oh, by the way, it was tied to SBF or Bankman-Fried from the crypto world. So if you want to know more about that story, it's pretty interesting. Go take a look. It's there. Definitely have a little bit of the rest of the political stuff. There's plenty of it there. Got some updates on what's going on in UKR, some additional commentary around the topics we've talked about with the Pentagon and the money, and what's available and not available. So all of that's covered. Even some politicians getting in suggesting you can't have one thing without the other, one thing being security down at our own border, but we also have to then support the funding of what's going on in UKR. So if you want to see who's saying that, that's there. In the AI world, some interesting stuff coming out. So Tom Hanks, not necessarily a fan of him, but him as well as Robin Williams have both been targeted with AI creation. So if you want to see what's going on there, one, a comment from Robin Williams' daughter, another, Tom Hanks warning people about an AI tool that's, I guess, making a likeness of him. So go check that out. Got some other the obligatory Elon stories. They're there in the sense that they're always coming after him. So somebody's suing him over the X. It's a social media company with the same name. I think it was Social Media X is coming after him because now he named his social media company X. So they're trying to go after him from trademark. As Adam spoke earlier about Bill Ackman talking about potentially investing in X. Or his hedge funds and maybe taking them public or doing something along those lines. That's there if you're looking for it, as well as another person who's suing Elon now. I guess this is the new thing. That and a lot more. We've got some updates, some other updates to happen around the world, including, this is kind of interesting. We have pirates now. I think we probably always had them, but it's making headlines, at least in San Francisco Bay. Boaters are in the Bay are having to fight off pirates. I'll leave it at that. You guys can go check it out if you want to know more. That and so much more. It's on our website, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
I also want to say thank you to our wonderful mods. Thank you to all the old school Foogle fam members here. Thank you guys. Joe that you know, Oki Khan, to name a few. Stephen McMahon, Starship, Paul Jordan, thank you for being here. Twist Me. Let's see here. We have Jammer. Thank you for modding. Along with Aaliyah, thank you for being here. Rick Johnson, thank you. And everyone else that supported tonight. I appreciate all of you. Cooters, Pirates in San Francisco. What a surprise. And then Lord Andrew, we're talking about water pirates, okay? And then thank you, everybody. Much love. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Life will change. Play the game. Thank you, Dex. Appreciate you.
Love. Great job, brother.
Make sure to follow us over on Twitter. Both of our Twitters are on the website. Play the game. Play the game. Over the next year, we will rage. Play the game. Play the game. Over the next year, life will change. Play the game. Play the game. I would I did it went on the high. I know I be on the way on back. I did it went on down the ba ba ba. It stop 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 up down down oh oh yeah no 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 no. Hey, I with the went on click I bring it on the bed no click up. Hey, I'm having it no hey stop Joe, you know. We're going to make a new one tonight. Julie Pilkerton, thank you for being top supporter tonight. Gonna ride by my side, hey, with a mama coffee, a mama wolf collar high. A ball in the ghost and cat deep behind us. Safe a girl and the one behind you. Charlie, don't surf and twist me. Trust me, it's gonna hurt. I'm gonna walk on down this way. I gotta say, it's gonna be a good day. Everybody knows it's gonna be okay. I'll be okay. I with the lorry parks. I say I'm roasty toasty. I say I'm going home. I say oh 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 my net on bada epa living up bada bada bumba navere bada bada bumba hey I'm